Home sales in April were down 34% compared to last year. What does this mean for our market and how is it impacting prices? I'm Adina Dragasanu, Oakland Realty, here with your May 2022 market update. Let's jump right in and take a look at what's happening with sales, inventory levels, and ultimately how this is affecting our pricing. Starting off with sales, we see that the total number of homes sold in the month of April was down 26% relative to March. Compared to April of last year, we see that sales are down 34%. Now this sounds like a pretty big and scary number, but how does it really compare if we look at the context of what we typically see this time of year? Looking at the historical average for this month, we see that last month's sales were 1.5% above the 10-year average. So while this double-digit decline in sales will surely be making headlines this month, what we're really seeing in the market is that buyer demand has returned to its historical average, and in the market as a whole, we're seeing a return back to more balanced conditions. And as we're looking out trying to see how this may impact prices, we have to remember that demand is only part of the equation. The other part of the equation is supply. And in order for prices to significantly decrease, we need to see not only a decline in demand, but we'd also have to see an increase in inventory levels. Looking at the number of homes newly listed for sale in the month of April, we see that this number was down 8.5% relative to March, and it's down 23% relative to April of last year. Looking at the total supply of homes available for sale in our market, we see that it was up about 15% relative to March, but it was down 14% relative to April of last year. Looking at this interplay between sales and inventory levels, the best indicator we have predicting whether prices are on their way up or down is the sales to active listings ratio. This ratio simply looks at the total number of sales in a given month divided by the total number of active listings left over at the end of that month. And when this ratio is below 12%, we see we're in a buyer's market. Usually prices are on their way down. And when this ratio is up over 20%, we see we're typically in a seller's market and prices are on their way up. Looking at this ratio for the month of April, we see that it was 36.7%. So we're still well into seller's territory, although not as heated as it was the previous month. Looking at this by property type, we see that this ratio is 25.3% for detached homes. For townhomes, it's at 47.1%, and for apartment condos, it's 45%. And within these segments, we see further variance based on neighborhoods and price points. For example, looking specifically at the detached segment, we see that the west side of Vancouver and also West Vancouver are 14%, which is right on the cusp of a buyer's and balanced market, whereas the east side of Vancouver is at 23%, and North Vancouver is in a very hot seller's market still at 48%. So let's finally take a look at prices. The HPI composite benchmark price for all property types is currently at $1,374,500. This represents a 1% increase relative to March and an almost 19% increase relative to April of last year. Looking at this broken down by property type, we see that for detached homes, prices are up 1% relative to March, and they're up 20.8% relative to April of last year. For attached or townhome properties, prices are also up 1.1% relative to March and up 25% relative to April of last year. And for condo or apartment properties, we've also seen a 1.1% increase relative to March and a 16% increase relative to April of last year. So what does this mean for you? Well, overall, we're returning to more balanced market conditions. For buyers, this is very welcome news. It means that you have more selection, more breathing room, and the frenzy of multiple offers is over. While we're still seeing multiple offers coming in on some properties depending on the neighborhood, price point, and segment, it's not as much of a frenzy as we were seeing in January and February of this year. Certainly, there seems to be a more balance and rational thinking in the market right now. Selling your home is no longer as simple as just posting it up on the MLS and waiting for 20 offers after the weekend. In this market, we're starting to see buyers be more selective, so we're seeing some properties not getting multiple offers, some not getting offers at all if they're not well priced or don't show well. So more than ever, you need to be working with a professional who understands the market that you're in and can give you advice to take advantage of what's happening in the market right now. If you're considering making a move this year, get in touch and we could help walk you through what's going on in your neighborhood and how to take advantage of what's happening. In the meantime, be sure to stay connected by following me on Instagram at adina.yvr or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more market updates. Have a great rest of the month and I can't wait to see you in June.